Welcome to Maq Mack Innocent Idolization.
And when you say innocent, what's
I put quotations around innocent because it's the one that everyone calls innocent, and unfortunately, it's probably the most insidious of the idolizations. But it's perceived both by society and by individuals as the most innocent. Oh, it's okay to have a little bit of idolization towards your mom or towards your daughter, or towards your son or father. We're still on your face, by the way, it's in case you were okay. Right on. I didn't know if that was, but basically,
I might go over and putz around on the comments, well, because I know lots of people have experiences one way or the other with their own sense of idolization about their own folks. What have you?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I have a bunch of examples, things like that I can roll with. Let me hear yours first, or if you want, I'll start with one of mine.
Well, I guess first I'll set the structure, I guess, and then after that you tell me some of your stories. So here's what I think the structure of idolization between a parent and child relationship looks like. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you great.
Okay.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep, perfect. So basically, it's as perceived innocent as, hey, my child makes good grades, and that's a true statement. But then they take it, my child makes good grades, and therefore is not the child at fault in this instance, unrelated to the grades. That's a common instance of idolization.
So in that regard, you're talking about sort of making up innocence, like they're not really innocent, but the parent sort of projects that on.
Well, no. Well, to some extent, there is no innocent. Everyone is going to err, but the idolization isn't made up from the concept of my child so innocent. It's actually made up from this BS logic creation that the parent in that instance makes, where they create this false logic of, well, let me take these three, different children. My child makes straight A's. That child has like a 3.6. They probably didn't do shit. And then, that dude has a 3 flat. That's the one who's at fault. And it's like, and you'll have situations like that take place. And what's really going on is there's this idolization, and it's not even because of the child, really. It's because the parent one either felt like some kind of failure in school themselves or over succeeded themselves in school. So those grades and that image is very important. Or two, doesn't want to be perceived as a bad parent themselves, and therefore, tries to immediately find out how their child cannot be the child to blame because of this idolization concept going in their head. And so it's an extension of self in that sense, of their self-idolization. But yeah. So,
one of those is like, you're talking about like the vicarious attitude, right? That the child's success reflects back on me, their prestige is mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But then there was another side to that. The other side of that was, how do you put that? Crap, I lost it. I'm trying to write down and keep.
No, I can add on. So I think the other way I put it was the parent has this thought of failure as a parent, insecurity of failure as a parent, and therefore has to figure out a way their child didn't fail. But you're talking about the other one, right?
I think you said, yeah. One of them is the vicarious, projecting into them, living through them. The other one is their behavior reflects on me as a parent. So yeah, those are two things. I keep tripping up on innocent though. You keep mentioning innocent idol. If we're talking about the parent-child relationship, that kind of goes both ways, because when you're born, you don't know anything except your parent or your grandma or your aunt or whoever looks after you. Like, that's all you know. You don't have a clue. You don't have that's why child abuse is so insidious, to take a position of trust and to lead some kid down some awful path. But that's also the same kind of thing. From their point of view, the parent is innocent. They just sort of assume that's how things are supposed to be. That's kind of why kids will put up with so much.
This is where you get generational issues come up, because of the fact that you have time after time after time, parents with bad habits who have idolized their parents, and that's where they form those bad habits from, pass them along to their kids. And when you talk about child abuse, you see that a lot with child abuse, actually, where they actually, the abuser was a victim of child abuse themselves firsthand, and it becomes a generational problem at that point. And that is a form of idolization to the form of imitation at that point. So it's such an idolization that even if you resent the parent and you can't stand the parent, if you are then doing the same behaviors, you're imitating it from this need to idolize or gain approval of some kind of this parental figure that you've got this image of.
The thing that occurred to me, talking about thinking about these different ways that people idolize kids. When we talk about these are kind of the two sides of the parent-child thing, right? The kids idolize the parents, and there's this whole healthy range in between too.
Absolutely.
Kids can look up to their parents and see them as worthy role models, and if the parents earn that and do the right thing, all is the better.
Yeah. The healthy part of it, I'd say, is the child should at the youngest of ages have an immense amount of idolization, healthy idolization happening as a 1 and a 2-year-old, because that's really their survival. Without that parent figure, they're dead.
That's true. They have to have that attachment necessary.
And then really the objective, and this is I think where a lot of parents and children get it wrong, is to slowly wean off of that idolization perspective over a period of 20 some odd years, and until as you're adopting into your own family and your own. But the way you do that is by, in my opinion, having the parents be open to communicating when they're wrong and not. There's a lot of adjustments. There's a lot of things. I don't want to go down that path. I can talk on that for a long time about, things that can be helpful. The idolization component where it's healthy is where there's an objectivity there. Like we talked about in the other discussion, true idolization occurs when you suspend critical analysis. And so if you're getting into 10 and 11 years old, 12 years old, and the child is suspending critical analysis out of fear of the parent's response, or the parent is suspending critical analysis because of the child being theirs, you now are in an issue that is a pretty large problem, and there's going to be some long-term consequences in relationships with that.
That's a wonderful criteria. One of the things that happens, and it kind of crosses the line, so I'm going to try and draw it, is when we talk about role models becoming more like divination tools.
Absolutely. Well, tools, but okay. Well, divinity tools, essentially. So tools.
Divination, yeah. Reading the mind of God.
Yeah.
Divination, there you go. Like Greta. That's one of the appeals to having kids speak for political issues, is to try and get your emotions involved.
Yeah, and there was a person briefly after Greta who commented in the philosophy group, and and did exactly what the people who put Greta up there had hoped for. He was commenting that, oh yeah, go attack this girl instead of fixing the problem, and I just commented, I would be more upset about the people who paraded her up there because they know about the way people will view children, and therefore they're using her to ignore the arguments. But basically the point of that is say, yeah, children are used all the time to suspend critical analysis. Look, babies and cats are the top 2 marketing tools on YouTube. You put a baby or a cat on YouTube with marketing, you're going to get suspension of critical analysis.
Johnny Carson and Dave Letterman both made their career out of exactly that. Just get a kid or a dog or a regular schmo in front of the camera and see what happens.
Not just those two. You know who else did, right? No one wants to say this one. Bill Cosby, Jello. Kids say the darndest things. But no, seriously, you're exactly right. Bob Saget's another one with funniest home videos. That was just another formulation of kids doing cute things. So basically, kids are used frequently for advertising, for suspension of critical analysis, for political motivations. So it's very obvious in those circumstances. It's hard for us as parents. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's hard for us as parents to be objective with ourselves and say, okay, if kids are being used on this mass scale because of suspension of critical analysis, am I capable of suspending critical analysis too often on my own kid? The answer is always going to be yes. Always.
Right. You should always be wary of that. Absolutely. I didn't catch the name of that kid. The kid with the Indian tail. What's up with that?
I didn't catch it.
All of a sudden, it's like a god. That's
who's that?
I thought I may have that around or floating around here. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, no, I might have missed it. It's been.
Yeah, it's back in that other. Oh, there's me, and nope, it's all gone.
We'll track it down.
There's I threw a video in the other group. This Indian kid, this baby is born with a tail, and then that's like what marks him as being divine.
Yeah.
So he gets worshipped as a god, and divination and getting to those parts of our mind, those like short-circuiting parts of our mind. We can say, I guess, as long as I'm doing the color scheme, I'll put politics down there as well.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about like what's the motive? Do you have any idea what the motive is? I have an idea.
Scroll down, because I'd like to talk. So you mean motive when it comes to what? Define, I guess.
Why does it work? Why do people listen to kids?
Well, I would say why do people idolize kids? I would say it's because of they look at themselves in a reflective manner too often at their own mistakes and want to have that time period back to be able to make those.
Let me show you. Let me just throw a cliche at you. The wisdom of the child. Like what wisdom?
Well, the wisdom of not yet knowing.
Okay. So we got like a fresh view, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else there?
The wisdom of
like beginner's luck, I guess.
There's just undoubtedly you're not the wisdom of being less cynical. Maybe the most wise, and that's critically wise because cynicism, a cynical outlook, will guarantee less outcome in life, and a positive.
Wait, say it with time out again. Hold on. Let's go with that. Say that again. Less.
No. When you have more cynicism, so when you're more cynical, you are guaranteeing yourself less outcome in life, and that doesn't mean you won't have very positive outcome, but you have less positive outcome than you would have had. So let's say you make it to a CEO position, but in one life, you're this completely cynical person who thinks that everyone's out to get you. You're probably going to pass on more deals in that life. You will still have all of these successes, but your cynicism stops you from more opportunities. The positive outlook, if you get to the same position, same life, CEO, positive outlook leaves you more open to more opportunities, which allows you to grow, advance further, even in opportunity.
I'm just going to change your word because cynic is kind of a loaded word.
Okay.
But we'll say that it's absolutely true. I've heard of this. If you're optimistic, you see more opportunities, and so you have better outcomes.
Yeah, basically, if you picture yourself playing a game, the opportunity you have is to expand the opportunities in the game or limit the opportunities in the game. And people with more cynicism or who have a more negative attitude, they limit their opportunities. While the people with a positive attitude, they expand their opportunities. So even if they might fail at one, they actually have more expanded opportunities. They're going to succeed at a greater rate because of the expanded opportunities versus the limited opportunities, because we're all finite beings. So that's just kind of the way it works.
All right, so these two right here that we just talked about, less cynical, more open. I think these are because of basically the neural structure in children. In other words, kids are growing neural connections like crazy that later on get sort of trimmed based on use. And so that openness that we're talking about, there's actually a biological basis to it. It's not just a matter of how they think, like, oh man, they just have these great ideas. No, it's kind of the other way around. Their ideas are kind of stupid. But being open to the possibilities and more flexible, that has its own value on top of everything else.